Hello, someone Tesle. So last time I have introduced the chapter number 3, population compositions in bird eye view, and this time we are going to test the detail of all those points. But before that, I'll try to start with the recapitulations of what we have learned in that very points. Population composition is the population is made up of, or the ingredients of populations are, and at the same time under that, in your textbook, the composition which has been discussed in your textbook is sex ratio, age structure, age-sex pyramid, literacy, rural-urban compositions, and operational structure. All those six points has been discussed in your textbook, right? And we will go one by one. Is it clear? And so, composition, knowing about the compositions of populations is important, right? As the people are known by, or distinguished by, sex, age, occupation, or education, or a place of residence, and life expectancy, and so on. What kind of life expectancy in India and in China and in the Latvia and in the Ethiopia, all right, Uganda, all right, or in Uganda. So what are the life expectancy in those countries, right? So all the people or all the populations are different in different ways. All the peoples are distinguished by all these characters, all these attributes, and these characters, all right, plays an important role in the population composition chapter. Is that clear? All right, and then the first composition is sex composition. So sex composition is nothing but the number of male, all right, and the female number, okay? Or you can see that the ratio between the number of man and woman is called sex ratio. So that is known as sex ratio. And because knowing about what is the number of male and what is the number of female in the country is important. And in the sex ratio, you will see the situation where favorable sex ratios and unfavorable sex ratio. And what do you call for? What is unfavorable sex ratios and what is favorable sex ratios? Okay, favorable sex ratio is nothing but where the sex ratio is where, for example, the formula for the sex ratio is male population divided by female population into 1,000. All right, and in India it opposites. Okay, so this is the case, and so for the 1,000 male population and how many females? Suppose for the country like Latvia, the 1,087 female, okay, to 1,000 male. So that means in that country these are favorable sex ratios for the women, okay? And what is the unfavorable sex ratio? Unfavorable sex ratio, for example, the 1,000 male, all right? For the 1,000 male, there is just a 468 females. And what about the conditions of the woman? You can imagine. Is that clear? Okay, how would be that society? How the women are in that very country or in place or in that region. Okay, you could imagine all those kind of situations. Okay, and so what we are learning about the sex ratio, right? What we are learning about the sex ratio? What could be the reason, or what we need to learn? Because knowing about the sex ratio or this sex ratio, number of male and female, and number of male to the female, that will tell you about the status of a woman in the country, to know about the woman's conditions in the country. All right, and that will show, that sex ratio will show this is the status of women in the country. And unfortunately, and in many areas, all right, for example, like here in the country, for example, in the 72, unfavorable to 72 countries. So unfavorable sex ratio is still in this 2020 age, all right, and still this in the 72 country, all right, the sex ratio is unfavorable, and you can see the you can imagine what the conditions of women are. Okay, so unfavorable sex ratio exists, all right, in the regions where the gender discrimination is rampant. So here we why we need to learn about the sex ratio. We need to learn about the sex ratio because it indicates woman's status of the woman, right? And here, where do you find where do you find the unfavorable sex ratios in the world? All right, and in the regions where gender discrimination is rampant. All right, what is gender discrimination? The discrimination between the man and woman are taking place. All right, and in those areas, all right, and wherever the gender discriminations are taking place, and there is an unfavorable sex ratio. Okay, and at the same time, the lower socioeconomic status, wherever there is a lower economic socioeconomic status, okay, and then the unfavorable sex ratios takes place. And then why unfavorable sex ratios is happening? Why is that unfavorable sex ratio is taking place? The reasons are the female feticide, the killing the baby inside the mother's womb. So is that right? And that situation is known as feticide. Fetus inside the mother's womb. If somebody kills that one or abortion that one, then that situation is known as feticide. Then female infanticide, after the birth of a baby girl, all right, and 0 to 1 you can say, just at the infant stage, if somebody kills the baby, and that situation is known as infanticide. And domestic violence, the violence against the woman, the physical injuries, all right, or whatever the internal injuries and so on, okay, the abusive word used by the males. So why such gender discrimination and in those areas the socio-economic status is low? Okay, so unfavorable sex ratio is taking place because the female feticide is rampant in those areas, because the infanticide is taking place, the woman against the crime against the woman is taking place. Is that okay? So in those areas you will find because of the female infanticide, okay, killing of the baby after the birth, and domestic violence against the women, and because of that there is an unfavorable sex ratio to the woman. Is that okay? Then now in the world scenario, all right, the highest sex ratio, all right, that is the country is Latvia, the European country. So that here you will find the 1,087 female, all right, to 1,000 male population. So there is a favorable. So many of the women are alive, you can say, or you will find a more female population. So that means, as we have talked from the beginning, all right, while we are learning about the sex ratio, because it will tell you about the status of women. So in this country, the status of women is high or good. Is it clear? Whereas in the UAE, right, United Arab Emirates, in that country, the 1,000 men, okay, for 1,000 male, there's a 468 females. The unfavorable sex ratio, so a lot of problems are going on for women, so feticide, infanticide, domestic violence, right? Such kind of activities, such kinds of problems are going on, unfair, the situations are going with the women. Then, and in the world situation or in the world scenario, you would find the sex ratio is unfavorable to favorable to 139 countries. This is favorable, but still, sadly, into 2020, the 72 countries, still in these 72 countries have an unfavorable sex ratio. That means the crime against the woman is going on, all right? And the Asia has a low sex ratio. So low sex ratio is nothing but the unfavorable sex ratio. Low sex ratio is nothing but unfavorable sex ratio. Europe has a better status for women. So European countries have a better status for the women, and the male-dominated migration in Asian countries, in India and in many of the Asian countries, have a male-dominated migration, and the female will be there in the home or in the rural area and doing all those agricultural and labor job, and they do not have any education at all. And male-dominated migration in Asian countries, in other sense, the out-migration, last time we have discussed, right? EM. Then female-dominated, all right, in what? Out-migration in European countries. Female-dominated, all right, in what? Female-dominated out-migration in European countries. Okay, female-dominated out-migration in all in one, okay? Female-dominated out-migration in European countries. That means who will be more in the rural area of European countries. In those areas, the male-dominated. In Asian countries, female-dominated in rural area. And who is dominated in the urban area in Asian countries? The male-dominated. At the same time, in the European countries, the female-dominated in the urban areas. Is that clear? So, by which we know, by knowing about the sex composition, we know many things regarding the sex, about the sex compositions. All right, many situations regarding the women. All right, so. I will try to recap it quickly in Tibetan. Okay, sex composition in the Kandla area, Pomole issue, and Pomole thing has to be digital person Changore, person Changore, and Digi making it on the Habu ways, get up the number of making it on the Candice to the Habu ways, and sex composition, the formula together, sex ratio equal to male population divided by female population in 2000 periods, and sex composition number of neither favorable sex ratios and unfavorable sex ratios. Unfavorable okay, and sex ratio the ratio between the number of men and women is called all right. Kagam stu leisure ratio kagam to pull up a pomu kagam to pomul kagam to dilaki share. 제가 아니 먼저 가진 장모르죠. 이게 비밀이 내가 다 그래서 and such a call using days later that might be unfavorable days. Sex ratio the unfavorable days. Call no later unfavorable sex ratio be call regions where social discrimination is taking place. Chiso number injection. Dite chiso call mixing gender injection. Gender level sambala and pomo yenje kawala shukche yobarsna and diki narona unfavorable sex ratio here last unfavorable sex ratio tanduk shima always were lower social economic status namola and chizo yake mandyo penjo yake mandyo ki yaka pinena biliyo ki namola yeah unfavorable sex ratio here last right and the sex ratio but the day now social discrimination the cousin labiers leg go to the what is on cousin labiers female future sites you want the chizo the gig in right and female future sites you female future sites like a color beard right and two American in Narola and say that healing of a child in the mother's womb. Okay, and then a female infanticide, right? To give a thought, kill them and say, Doctor you share the big situation, crime the situation, and domestic violence, right? And now let's say, and Toba Petra, Rasin and Koran Pet, Muskopina, Tang, right? Dumb Mandache, last the game, but young days, many young days. She's a thing of never chichawa. She's a cutting new years and she's over the gig in our the gig institution to wear one key and Kalibure under the unfavorable sex ratio to be on us and the doubling number higher sex ratio the college is the black one and lowest the college is UAE, right? And sex ratio chidan something or number and take up for gather so number and favorable those and doubling number and take up this number and unfavorable ratio because unfavorable ratio is done to it, right? And the negative is catching the shadow and Tanashing continent and the details see what's Asian number sex ratio small low unfavorable sex ratios to the women right? And then Europe has a higher sex ratio or a higher sex ratio and Todo Europe has a higher sex ratio and the Todo Europe has a better status for women. Cultural sex ratio for the character and male-dominated migration in Asian countries. Yaga Nangola, Nepal, Bangladesh, the colony, the Mangs and migrate in the Sure, out migrate in the Sure, Mangs and male-dominated trade. And they give urban area that from Kid Nangol Chinjagache and the Kazakh, Suzuki, Tonsilla. Tan Namla Pesha is a one, but the beginning of the Manche for Asia Namola, male dominated us, and European country the Namola, female dominated us, and European country Namola, rural Namola dominated male dominated. Didn't done us, okay? And those cinemas, some shiny, which say them so.